What if I told you that a 20-year-old once took control of an entire kingdom, and then conquered half the known world before the age of 33? His name was Alexander, but history doesn't remember him as just a king. He became something more, a myth, a god, a legend. Alexander the Great didn't just change history, he rewrote the very concept of what one man could do with vision, ambition, and an unrelenting will. Now, let me take you on a journey through one of the most astonishing lives ever lived. From bloody battles to philosophical dilemmas, from ruthless conquest to visionary empire building, this is the cinematic, unbelievable story of Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BC in the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, Alexander was the son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias. He wasn't raised like an ordinary boy. His mother told him he was descended from Achilles. His father trained him like a soldier. And his tutor, none other than Aristotle himself, the greatest philosopher of the age. From childhood, Alexander believed he was meant for greatness. He read the Iliad not as literature, but as prophecy. And at age 12, he tamed a wild horse no one else could ride, a horse named Bucephalus, who would ride into battle beside him for the next 2 decades. Then, when Alexander was just 20, his father was assassinated. Suddenly, the boy became a king. And the world would never be the same. When Alexander took the throne, his kingdom was on the verge of collapse. Greek city-states rebelled. Rivals challenged his right to rule. But Alexander moved fast, and with fire. He crushed uprisings with surgical precision. When Thebes revolted, he destroyed the city completely. 30,000 people were enslaved. The message was clear: challenge Alexander, and you will be erased. He wasn't just ruling Macedonia, he was shaping it into a launchpad for something bigger. A dream that had obsessed his father for years, the conquest of Persia. Alexander didn't just want to rule Greece. He wanted to take over the known world. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont with 40,000 troops. His destination: the massive Persian Empire. The first major battle came at the river Granicus. Alexander personally led the charge, nearly dying in the fighting. But his boldness paid off. The Persians were crushed. Next came the Battle of Issus. Darius III, the Persian king, outnumbered Alexander 2-1. But Alexander used terrain, speed, and shock tactics to shatter the Persian line. Darius fled. His army collapsed. And Alexander captured his family. He treated them with dignity, a clever political move. He wasn't just a warrior. He was beginning to see himself as a ruler of many cultures. But not every city welcomed him. The island fortress of Tyre refused to surrender. So Alexander ordered a causeway built, half a mile long, into the sea. For 7 months, his army battled storms, walls, and constant attacks. Finally, Tyre fell. Over 8,000 were killed. 30,000 enslaved. It was brutal, total, and decisive. And something had shifted in Alexander. He no longer saw himself as just a Greek king. He began dressing like a Persian emperor, adopting their customs, calling himself the son of Zeus. He wasn't just conquering, he was becoming divine. In 332 BC, Alexander marched into Egypt. The people welcomed him as a liberator. He traveled to the Oracle of Amun at Siwa Oasis, where priests told him he was the son of a god. Whether it was real or not, Alexander believed it. He founded the city of Alexandria, one of more than 20 cities he would name after himself. It would become a center of culture, learning, and trade for centuries. But Alexander wasn't slowing down. He was preparing for his greatest battle yet. In 331 BC, Darius III gathered a massive army to stop Alexander once and for all. They met on the plains of Gaugamela. Alexander was outnumbered, but he executed a masterful flanking maneuver that broke the Persian center. Once again, Darius fled. This time, he wouldn't make it far. He was later betrayed and killed by his own men. Alexander was now ruler of the Persian Empire. But he wasn't done. With Persia under his control, Alexander pushed east, into Bactria, Sogdia, and finally India. He faced fierce resistance from war elephants and determined kings like Porus. The Battle of the Hydaspes River was one of the bloodiest of his campaigns. But again, Alexander won. He wanted to go further, to reach the end of the world. But his men had had enough. Exhausted after a decade of fighting, they mutinied. Reluctantly, Alexander turned back. But not before founding more cities, marrying local nobility, and trying to fuse Greek and Persian culture into one empire. He wasn't just conquering land anymore. He was trying to conquer identity itself. In 323 BC, at the height of his power, Alexander fell ill in Babylon. Within days, he was dead. Some say it was fever, others poison. Some believe he was paralyzed, alive when they began preparing his body for burial. He was just 32. He left no clear heir. His generals would fight for control, tearing the empire apart. But his legend only grew. Alexander had become more than a man. He was the template for every conqueror that followed, from Caesar to Napoleon. He changed maps, cultures, and history. And he did it all in just over a decade. So who was Alexander the Great? A hero? A tyrant? A genius? A god? Maybe he was all of them. But one thing is certain. In just 12 years, he changed the shape of the world and the story of what one human being could become. His story still echoes across centuries. And maybe that's the ultimate conquest of all.